Hello again. It's you and me. Listen to fantasy football advice from the Pigskin Pals. And we are going to be going over our oldest, newest friend, Parker, this week. We're doing the Critique Corner, where we go over every Dynasty team in our league and give them advice on what we would do if this was our roster. Luckily, this week, you tuned into a great episode where we're going over the worst team in the league, our least favorite team. Just kidding, Parker.
I disagree.
We're really proud of you. We're really proud of you for how you turned this team around, and we're going to be diving right into it. Let's get stuck right in.
Bang.
Like I said, one of the best, grandest teams in the entire world you can see. I don't know what we're doing, but we're going over Parker's team in the Pigskin Pals Dynasty League right now, and he had an outstanding draft last year with CJ Stroud, De'Von Achane, traded for Trey McBride, and that's about it. But, he did trade for Breece Hall too. But imagine if he didn't trade for Breece Hall and he still had Tyreek with Achane and Mostert. That team would be a pod right there.
Dolphins Central. Holy shit. Yeah.
But reading through his lineup, he's got CJ Stroud, Breece Hall, Achane, Pickens, Kirk, McBride, Mostert, Brian Robinson, not Bijan, Will Levis, and then looked like he picked up.
Go off.
Then looked like he picked up Joe Milton. And he drafted Bo Nix this year. He's got Mac Jones still riding on his bench, Kenny Pickett, Zeke, Chase Brown, Deuce Vaughn, Troy Franklin, Johnny Wilson, Luke McCaffrey, Juju, Elijah Moore, Eric All, Jalen McMillan, and Brendan Rice. No first-round pick. That's mine this year.
You got it.
What do we think about this team, AJ?
Honestly, kind of like you said, he's turned it around. As of last year, we were saying, like, this team, like, he's going to be bad for 3 years. It's going to be, a train wreck. I don't know how he turns this around. This is all after he traded away his pick for this upcoming year now. She's like, why would you do that? You're going to be the 101 that year. What are you doing? And now I'm looking at his roster. I'm like, this team's pretty solid. Maybe a little top heavy. Got not a lot on the bench, but he filled out his receivers, which was a big issue for him. He got George Pickens. He still has Christian Kirk. Got Troy Franklin in the draft. I think Jalen McMillan is a pretty nice taxi piece. It could be someone that comes out in the next year or two that could get some starts. For sure. But his running backs really are just like so strong, I think. Breece Hall and De'Von Achane, just like crazy 1-2 punch. I'm a big Brian Robinson guy. I don't think you really are. You're maybe just middling. I have a lot of faith in Brian Robinson this year, so I think he's really good. And he's got a couple upside guys in like Chase Brown and Raheem Mostert too. So I mean, it's a team that can win games. I don't think it's deep enough to win a championship though.
I really like his starting running backs too. I'm not the biggest Brian Robinson hater. I think he's definitely gonna have a role. I just don't see his role being around that long.
Sure.
I think what I kind of want to talk about is maybe quarterback. We don't have to really talk about CJ Stroud at all. I mean, his quarterbacks are so young. It's crazy. I think that was like our biggest knock earlier was dude didn't really have a quarterback. Didn't really have any wide receivers. Yep. He got George Pickens from a trade, and like Christian Kirk was the wide receiver one, but that is slowly changing kind of. I mean, he has 2 wide receivers now, and maybe Troy Franklin. Yeah. If he turned, like, his wide receivers are still your weakest point.
Still really
where I would
weak, yeah.
Yeah, where you're like, I think if you believe that you have a shot this year and you want to try and go for it, your best interest would maybe be trading Brian Robinson, where our market is so needy for running backs, where you could get another wide receiver and you still have Achane and Breece that are going to be carrying you in that running back spot. I mean, you're shaking your head. I know you love your running backs, but I think for a possible, like for a double flex league, wide receivers are the way to go.
I just think it's not going to really, I mean, depending on the receiver that he gets, right? I don't know how much it will really benefit him, because if he's just like 1-for-1ing Brian Robinson for a receiver, it's like he didn't get anywhere. I mean, he's still just the same amount of depth. It doesn't change a whole lot for me. And I also do like Brian Robinson. You're right. I don't think he gets a top tier wide receiver anywhere. He could maybe get like a Tyler Lockett or something like that. But then it's like they probably have the same shelf life, Brian Robinson and Tyler Lockett. So it's not any different. So I just think that seems more lateral. I don't know. I see where you're coming from. I would rather trade Raheem Mostert for a receiver strictly because of the double up on Dolphins running backs. where like I know like 1 week they both scored like 40 points or whatever it was last year, but like the odds of that happening is like so low. And doubling up on it and like having them both in your starting lineup like they are right now, it seems so risky. And maybe not risky, but like one of them will pop off, sure, but then one other guy's probably gonna have like 6 points, 5 points. I'd much rather just dip off Raheem and get a guy from another team that can put up 9-10 a week.
I agree that Raheem is the better person to trade. Like, who's gonna be scoring more points, Raheem or Brian Robinson? I personally think Raheem is gonna be scoring more points this year. And then also, who are you going to get more stuff for? Like, Mostert's 32, and he's a running back. You're not going to get shit for him, I feel like, in a Dynasty league. Like, it's going to be... People are looking at that maybe a one-year rental, where Brian Robinson has 7 more years to catch up to Mostert's age.
Sure. Yeah, I don't know. I feel more comfortable trading like literally, I'm going to keep using this guy. I think both Brian Robinson and Raheem Mostert can get traded for someone like Tyler Lockett. I would much rather trade Raheem Mostert for Tyler Lockett than Brian Robinson for Tyler Lockett. That's just my personal opinion. Just because I think Brian Robinson has the opportunity to build off this year and become a staple. Maybe not a top RB, but a staple that isn't just going to get replaced next year. Whereas Raheem Mostert is going to be gone soon for sure, just because of his age. And maybe Raheem scores more points. I think I'm willing with a team like this to maybe the points this year for one, more depth of receiver, and two, to try and keep that hope on Brian Robinson and the possibility that he stays for longer.
I guess I'm curious if do you just want to individually go into each of their possible trades one at a time?
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah. So we'll just start with B-Rob. We got Marquise, James Conner. There was Jahan Dotson, and the mid-fourth should not be there considering we don't have fourth. I'm going to do... No, we'll just leave it. Realistically, the ones I'm looking at is like Jahan Dotson 1. It'd be like Jahan in the 3rd, or like Marquise Brown or James Conner are the 3 that I think are reasonable. Honestly, I would trade Brian Robinson for James Conner. Well, it depends which way you want to go, right? I think Parker probably wants to win. Yeah. I would rather trade Raheem Mostert for James Conner, but if you had to go B-Rob for James Conner, I wouldn't be opposed to it. But I also don't think the James Conner owner would trade James Conner for Brian Robinson.
Maybe, though, because Sam's team is pretty old. He would take a downgrade or he would be upgrading his youth at a downgrade of a player. Where I think that could happen if that's the route that Parker wants to go in. But yeah, these are... interesting. I think I would be most tempted by the Jahan Dotson one, where
I agree.
You could see him maybe becoming a wide receiver 2 after this year with Jaden Daniels and kind of the offense. But let's look at what Mostert could possibly bring in.
Javon Baker. You kidding me?
Now that's interesting. I'm looking immediately at the Braylon Allen one, where he would be at the handcuff of Breece, which would just be really interesting.
Can you imagine just rocking Braylon?
Yeah, I mean, it's like these options are definitely a lot more underwhelming.
Yeah,
right.
I would agree for sure. I honestly, it's hard. This team is hard because I really like its starting lineup, but there's no value anywhere else, so it's almost impossible to trade anything. It's almost like he has to hit on whatever random little pieces are on his bench.
Yeah, I'm starting to think that we gave him too much credit and we hyped him up a little bit too much more, because now that I'm looking further into it, he doesn't have his first round pick next year, and he doesn't have his first round pick in 2026 either. So like, he got really close to a rebuild.
That's true.
Where I feel like he's just gonna be rebuilding again very soon.
That's true. I think we saw like the big flashy sign in front of the store that said like, look at this like starting lineup, it's sick. Then we didn't go in the store and it's just shit, because like there's like once a couple of these guys on this team,
fishy about this.
Yeah, like something like Christian Kirk, Raheem Mostert. Once those guys are donezo, he doesn't have fill-ins at the current moment, and he doesn't have a lot of picks. So it's all going to come down to if he hits on the young guys like Chase Brown and Troy Franklin and Jalen McMillan and all those guys, because you don't have picks.
And like what happens? Worst case scenario, what happens? Achane, injury-prone player, he gets injured. Pickens, Ayuk gets traded to Steelers. That's bad news for him. And like BTJ replaces Christian Kirk. Trey McBride's not everything when he's not the number 1 receiver in the offense. So and then like Will Levis, we don't know what we got in that guy either.
We have no clue what's going on with that guy.
Yeah, that's just a mystery box right there too. So there is just a lot of question marks, where I think the only thing we know for certain is maybe mitigating your losses and trading away those older players and the running backs that you have that you can afford to part with.
Yeah, I mean, I'm of the opinion that the only real move that can be made is like a Raheem Mostert move that I would like to make as a Raheem Mostert move. I just personally hate having two, like, I know you have Najee and Jalen Warren, but I don't like having two, like, same position on the same team. It just feels bad to me. It feels like you're losing value.
Especially when they're both personally, like, have value too. It's a lot easier when you have Breece Hall and Braylon Allen, because it's like, oh, I'm not like losing value by having this backup on my bench, but he's still going to be able to be good. I came up with one more move that I would consider, and it's Will Levis, because I think this would be the great time to sell, especially if, like, in week 3 or 4 he's playing all right, where I don't think anyone in the league really thinks Levis is going to be a franchise quarterback and staying around that long. Like, yes, he has the potential to be a good fantasy quarterback, so I would capitalize on that mid-season and trade him away to a QB-needy team, maybe like Ben's team or something like that, where they could, like, help that team now, but you're not going to be left holding the bag with Will Levis, because I personally think the Titans are definitely going to be replacing him unless he plays absolutely lights out. But if you just see, like, kind of okay quarterback play the first couple of weeks and he's putting up some fantasy points, I would be trading him away.
I don't know. I think this is probably not a super reasonable trade, but I'm going to put it out there anyway because I think it could be interesting. Will Levis and Raheem Mostert. You get back Derek Carr and Derrick Henry. Something close to that. If Parker wants to win, that's helping it's front-loading that flex then here, that running back spot, making this starting lineup even stronger than it was in the past, and really pushing for that title then, and having Derek Carr as a necessary backup or QB2 if he needs it. I don't know, just a thought.
It's definitely a thought. I'm trying to consider it. I feel like it's almost lateral in you're downgrading from Will Levis to Derek Carr, but then you're upgrading Mostert to Henry.
Think about it like this, though. I think Henry probably has a couple more years than Raheem Mostert, and I think he'll be better than Raheem Mostert coming up. Derek Carr probably has a similar shelf life to Will Levis. Less upside, obviously, but probably similar shelf life. So you're not losing too much, but you are losing, like, the chance that Will Levis pops off and he's, like, actually really good. But I think it bolsters that flex. I think Derrick Henry will be better than Raheem Mostert, and Derek Carr will probably be really similar to Will Levis. So I thought maybe lateral movement maybe gives him a better chance at winning right now and having another guy for a couple of years. Yeah,
I think I would just be more inclined to trade for not running back to running back, but like Mostert to maybe like a wide receiver in that package, because what is a 2-year window of a different running back really going to buy him when he doesn't have any capital until 3 years from now? Like,
well, that's my thought, though. My thought, though, is with kind of where he's at, I don't think he can get a lot of value and, like, get these picks back and rebuild with the guys he has. I almost feel like he has to just fully dig his feet in and say, I'm going to go try and win this thing, which is why I want Derrick Henry, because I think Derrick Henry is a beast. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying instead of, like, you don't have your picks. That's the way it is. You don't have 25. You don't have 26. Dig your heels in, stick into it, and try and get guys that are going to score points right now and try and win. That's almost the way I'd go forward with this one, because you don't have value to trade to get picks, and you got a good starting lineup. You just need to fill in a couple holes.
Yeah, I guess I'm coming around to it. And theoretically, too, he would kind of be in the same position with that capital in 2 years, because I think Henry is 2 years younger than Mostert, where he's just going to be kind of flipping Henry for that kind of similar player potentially down the line, where it's just kind of like extending the rebuild a little bit too.
Yeah,
but also giving you an opportunity to win.
So I think that's probably where I would almost, that's where I end up now after talking about this. This is interesting because we started off like, oh, nice team. And then we're like, oh, this is kind of a shit team. And now I'm more like, okay, I'm like a shit team with shit value, but like I'm also halfway good. So let's dig into the fact that I'm halfway good and try and get better and try and win. It's like such an interesting team.
Yeah. I would also, I would be interested to see what kind of blockbuster trade he can get done with, like packaging his second, thirds, and some of those players. Just go no depth. What kind of starting lineup can you put together? I think that would be fun.
Even not necessarily no depth, but you can, if we're really digging into it. Like, this is where I think I'm fully convinced of this at this point. If I bet people probably don't think this team's going to be all that good. Dig in these second and thirds that you're not going to have any draft cap. Get rid of them. Get a guy that you can put in at your flex. Get a receiver with your second and third. Get a whatever with your second and third. Just trade that shit away and then say, next 2 years, I'm going to try and win this thing.
I like that idea, but the picks aren't his. Another hindrance to his team.
Yeah, it does not work as well.
But speaking on that topic, though, we can wrap up this team. If anyone's out there interested to say your team is better than my team and you just want to swap first this year, I'll look at all those trades and I'll be like, oh, yeah. Maybe we can just swap first, bet on ourselves, see what happens. until the next draft. So league mates.
That's interesting. So you're saying like, if I think I'm gonna be better than you, trade my pick with you and I get your pick?
Yes.
So you want to trade first round picks right now?
I also know you would be better than me.
Yeah. So
I want to be
trade?
in the position of like a middling team where we both are confident in ourselves and we're like, my team's gonna be better than your team. I'd
be down
swap.
though if you want.
And if people both think that way and trade picks, then it's like, well, we'll see what happens.
I got you. That's fun. No one will do it, but it's fun.
Who wouldn't do it? Luke. Let's do it, Luke. What are you saying?
There's no way Luke does. Are you on crack? No way Luke's doing that. Also, I don't think he... Oh, maybe he does it with... No, he's Parker's first. No, you have Parker's first round. I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm lost. Trade your first pick with me. We're done. Parker, you're probably not going to like this because we ended up shit-talking your team a little bit. But we also gave it some love, so it's a little 50-50 relationship we got going on here. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We love you. I can do the underdog stuff as well. We'll see you next time. See you later.